Hi, my name is Kumo. I am a licensed therapist as well as a mental health and gender consultant. If you are new here, welcome to my channel. A lot of the topics that I cover here are mental health related as well as sexuality and LGBTQ community related topics. I am also a sex educator, so some of the topics here relate to sexuality and sex education. I hope you poke around, stick around, hit the subscribe button if you want to. I love to create a warm, gentle, loving space, and I'm really just with this channel trying to debunk some of the narratives about what therapy looks like. I am very transparent about the topics that I share, the things that I share, and I think that that is how we create the best kinds of relationships with therapists, with each other, etc., etc. So thank you for being here. So today, on Saturday the 31st of January, I may or may not actually post this today, but today I'm going to talk a little bit about this innocuous idea of New Year's resolutions. I woke up this morning and had this sense of relief. In previous years, I've woken up with this sense of dread that I needed to make a plan for the new year. There needed to be these drastic changes that I needed to make to accommodate this new year, new me kind of narrative. And so I wanted to share a little bit about what I understand about New Year's resolutions, a little bit about how this has shown up with clients I've worked in my practice, and maybe give some pointers about what else you can do other than creating a New Year's resolution. And I'll share a little bit about what I do now. So I was definitely in the past a New Year's resolution girly. I used to sit down, bought a new journal, spent the money on that, and I would make my resolutions. Probably not surprising, they usually had to do with weight, eating, books. I always wanted to read more. All of these things that I've just mentioned can be really helpful things to strive towards in a new year. Anything can be helpful to strive towards in general. Let me not even say in a new year. It can be really helpful to strive towards those things. However, I think that with the culture that we've created around New Year's resolutions, there is so much pressure and anxiety, about putting it out there, about saying it to yourself or saying it to someone, and then we kind of don't really pay attention to the effect that it has on us if we don't create these quote-unquote resolutions with compassion and also with knowledge of ourselves. I think knowledge is power. Self-awareness is like the hugest, at least in my opinion as a therapist, indicator of well-being. So, some of the things that I think I've noticed in my practice, in my work, folks exhibit a huge struggle with self-awareness. I have seen many clients at this point, and more often than not, the New Year's resolutions are the same. And often when we get to the heart of it, things exist in our economy that make us think we need it. We need the new diet, we need the new book, we need the new planner, we need the new thing that's happening that's going to make us, this is going to be the time that we lose the weight or we read more. I'm using these examples just because they're ones that I have set also for myself time and time again. The biggest thing, and I think an indicator of success in creating resolutions, is self-awareness. That we are not as a society in touch with how does this work for me? Instead, we're kind of committing ourselves to these innocuous, kind of really far away ideals that either someone has told us are important for us or we've decided are important for us because of what it might look like to other people or even to ourselves, right? And I think that that's the struggle, that often, people will be like, no, I'm losing weight for me. And then when we get at the heart of it, we find that there is a lot of discomfort in where they are in that moment. And not that there's anything wrong with feeling that way and wanting to change those things, but when we want to change our appearance without being mindful of the effects on our mind, that obviously lends to its own problems. So a lack of self-awareness is a huge one. And I'm a somatic therapist. I focus a lot on what is your body doing? How is it feeling? How is your body giving you information about these things? And when we make these New Year goals or resolutions without an awareness of what works for us, what we know about ourselves, we're often really doomed to not do well in them or not reach them. Another thing I think I've noticed is self-esteem. And I think this obviously ties into the self-awareness piece. Folks making resolutions or goals based on how they might be perceived by other people. For example, I used to make a goal of reading a book every month. In general, that is a very, very, it's a pretty okay goal. However, when I really think about it, I'm not really even sure. As someone who's been in school for so long, reading was an incredibly tiring thing. And I had to do a lot of exploring to find the kinds of books I wanted to read. And so what came along with me trying to read once a month, I was picking books that were only related to my profession, and then I would not finish it, or I was reading things that were not interesting to me anymore. I kind of lost what I enjoyed about reading, because that was something I really enjoyed as a young person. I thought it made me look smarter. It was a thing that I would say that felt cool to say. I read. There are so many books that I've read. I love to talk about books. I didn't take the time to try and find out what it is I enjoy about reading. What do I enjoy now as an adult person? Because that's changed since I've been in school. I think it made it a lot harder for me to stick to it, and in a lot of ways created a lot of shame because I couldn't stick to it because of the things I was reading. I didn't know what I liked. I didn't give myself time to find that out, because that would mean that I couldn't share with people that this is what I enjoy, this is what I like, I'm a reader. And this can be applied to anything, right? Losing weight, for instance. I was a very impatient person when it came to losing weight, that I wasn't losing weight fast enough. But I had to do a lot of mental work to get in touch with my body and kind of even let go of the narrative of wanting to lose weight. So self-esteem is the other one that I see quite a bit. I have a note right here. What does it say? Oh, too many unrelated goals. I love lists. And I am someone who will impulsively create 10 different goals, maybe not 10, but 3 or 4 even, that are unrelated to each other and without self-awareness, as well as a little bit of acknowledging self-esteem, would create these unrelated goals that required a lot of effort on their own. So what ends up happening is that someone or all of them end up falling off. Again, it kind of shoots us back into the spiral of shame. And on top of that, because of the information that we're taking in from our society, from our surroundings, we're constantly reminded about those things. Right, we're seeing people exercising, people posting before and after photos. There's so much shame around letting something go or deciding it's not for you anymore and feeling like we failed. Often we're setting ourselves up to keep failing, to keep not meeting those goals or resolutions. I really think the pressure that exists around this time of year is really stressful. For me, I've honestly just had to divest from it altogether. I allow myself to start and stop things whenever I feel like it. I have had to kind of get comfortable with the discomfort of not reaching the end of something. And I think in giving myself that kind of unconditional compassion, you'd think it would create the opposite effect, but in reality, when we allow ourselves to listen to our bodies, to listen to what our gut is telling us a lot of the time, we actually do end up reaching some of those kind of intrinsic goals that our body has already. So some of the things that I've started doing, one thing I've started to do in the last 2 years, or maybe even just the last year, is I pick a word. Just one word For 2022, my word was courage. Now, the reason I pick a word instead of creating a list of goals is I like to give myself too much to do. I think giving myself permission to take a step back and focus on a word meant that I could find out how can I exhibit this word in something that I'm doing, rather than trying to embody this innocuous up in the air goal or resolution that somebody else has kind of said will be a good idea or has fits for somebody else. So picking a word, I think for me has been incredible, especially because at the end of the year, I'm able to do a reflection on in what ways did Kumu exhibit courage in 2022. And I'm able to pick out so many experiences where I can, remind myself of how proud I am. And this goes into something else that we can do outside of setting a resolution. But yeah, setting a word rather than goals or resolutions allows you to see it and continue to persevere in it, regardless of whether or not, you reach one thing or you act on one thing. So the second thing that you can do, if you're someone who, if maybe the word doesn't really feel like something you want to do, could be using the end of the year and the beginning of the year as a time for reflection and ritual. What I mean by that is taking the time to sit down and have a look back at the year that you've had. What is something this year that I did, or things that I did this year that I'd like to stop doing? This year, one of the things that I wrote down was doubting myself. I have a tendency to doubt my capacity to do things. And as I lean more into building my business and finding more queer community in South Africa, doubt is a really large indicator of me not reaching my full potential. So doubt is something that I found I've exhibited, at least in the last 2 years, that in 2023 I'd love to be more mindful of. A start could be something like engaging more self-care statements. Daily affirmations, that's the word. Engaging more affirmations is something that I want to start in 2023. Whether I started today or I started in a month, I do one today, I do two tomorrow, I don't do another one the next day, and then I start again the following day, right? That's something that is not attached to my worth. It's not attached to an action that's going to induce shame. It can be, and this is something I think, would be important to discuss with a therapist or, someone supportive in your life. But for me, starting affirmations feels really important and helpful because it isn't something that I'm going to hold myself to. It's something that I can continue to stop and start over and over again. It's something that doesn't necessarily have an end or a beginning. And a continue is journaling. I started journaling more consistently this year. It isn't every day. I don't journal every day, but in the last 2 months I have, and it's been really, really awesome for me. And so it's something that I'm really proud of myself for and I want to continue to do. So 2 ideas. You could have a word for the year, or you could engage some reflections. Pinterest has really awesome reflections. There are some incredible therapists and social media folks who can give you different ways of engaging in reflection. It could really just be a reflection about the things that you were proud of yourself for in the previous year and not have anything to do with the upcoming year. You could honestly not make any resolutions. And that's going to be my 3rd one. How about challenging yourself to come into the year being aware and proud of who you are in this moment? Not adding, not subtracting, just being. Creating a practice even of mindfulness where you acknowledge, this is what my hair looks like. This is how I feel in my body. This is what brings me joy in this moment. These are the things that I don't like. Kind of not using the beginning of the year as a time to hurriedly add things, right? Or hurriedly put yourself in a box for what you should or shouldn't achieve. I hope this has been helpful. I think that as a therapist myself and in my own personal mental health journey, I've kind of divested from the idea of new year, new me, because I'm not a new me. I am the same me that I was yesterday. I will be that same person tomorrow. And I think having the awareness that I am still that person every day and that person is enough, that I'm comfortable being that person, that I deserve all the things that I want regardless of how I show up as a person has been maybe the best revelation in my own kind of journey to self-wellness. I hope that 2023 brings you health, prosperity, joy, and as usual, as a highly sensitive person and someone who loves to embody, gentleness and kindness, I hope that 2023 brings you unconditional acceptance and compassion for yourself. If the new year is something that you celebrate, Happy New Year. If it's not, see you next time. As usual, I will have all of my social media in the description. And if you would like to work with me, if you're a business, a school, or an individual or a couple seeking out sexuality coaching, all of that information in the description. Head to my website. I would love if you would comment, drop a like, subscribe, share it with your friends. Thank you.